I am so excited to welcome you to the first show of Humans on a Mission. I'm so glad that you are here. My first amazing Human on a Mission guest today is the very special Ashley Haseotes, who I've known, I think for about 14 years, and we seem to keep running into each other. So I am so excited to have her here with us today. Ashley Haseotes is an intuitive energy healer and Chopra Center, I should say, certified meditation coach. And I'm so excited about the fact that she is an author to an amazing book. I can't wait to read it, called The Unspoken, which will be released in January of 2022. She works with all those who are stuck and struggling on their life path, in pain. I know what that feels like. And who also are going through a major life shift. She's certainly also dedicated to children and families who need to heal during and after pediatric cancer through the charity that she founded called One Mission. So Ashley, so happy that you are here in this way, right? So we're not running into each other outside walking on the street, which seems like a regular between you and I. So Ashley, welcome. And I wanted to start off and kick this off really with you giving an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself as the Ashley today. You know, who is Ashley today? What does the world need to know about you in this particular present moment?
Wow, that's a really loaded question. I feel like we need wine for this discussion.
Oh, didn't I bring it today? Just coffee over here.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I'm so honored I get to be the first. So this is great. Hopefully it goes well enough that we can do it again a couple months down the line. So I don't know, who is Ashley today? Honestly, I'm the same person I've always been. But I think what I've come to realize is that I have a story to tell. So becoming an author really wasn't on my radar of things that I was going to do in my life. I used to self-describe myself as not that smart. And really whoever I would say that to would be like, what are you talking about? You've done more than most people have ever done in their life. And I'm like, yeah, but I just did that because I asked for help. But anyway, people have been telling me to write a book for a really long time. I think because one of my special hero gifts is to show up in talking with people, and that could be a stranger at the supermarket. It could be a friend or a client. I really show up very authentically. And I am with them. And because I'm an empath, which I'm sure we're going to talk about today, I really can identify with people's pain and suffering. And so having that conversation over however many years I've been a healer, 10 plus years, people keep saying you need to write a book, dude. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, whatever. So anyway, COVID, one of the many gifts for me, because I had a lot of gifts during COVID, believe it or not. One of the gifts for me during COVID was I was stuck in my house, and I'm still very much deep in a healing journey. So that was actually good for me to be home, to be forced to be home. And I just opened my computer one day and started writing. So I didn't even think to myself, I'm going to open up my computer and start writing. It just happened. It was almost kind of like spirit came through me and just did it. So in that, I learned a lot about myself. And I want to share it with the world. I want everybody to feel like their story is important too.
That's awesome. And, it's so hard just to even get to that point to feel comfortable enough to be able to write or be in that space of I'm ready to share that story. And so what was your first thought when you did open up that computer? What were the first things that you went to that showed up for you and you said, okay, I think I'm going in this direction? What was that for you?
Well, I had come off a really heavy journal moment. So it was, I did my big journal. For me, journaling is how I've been healing my inner child. So, which needed a lot of healing, and she still does. And so I had come off this big aha moment, and I was like, whoa, my body is so connected to what happened to me in my past that whenever I would journal about how the little girl inside me feels today,
Mm-hmm.
I could almost always tie it back to an adverse event or circumstance that happened in my childhood. And that just got me thinking, I think. I wasn't even aware. I wasn't conscious of this, but I got me thinking, and I just started typing stories. And I started from as far back as I can remember, and I just started typing. And so I kind of like wrote out my whole life. It took me probably 3 months to write the whole thing. And I wrote for like 6 hours a day.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I didn't even leave my meditation room. That's where the kids were Zooming. My husband was working in his office. I could hear everybody, and I just kept typing away. I was like the mad typer. And I I mean, I like info dumped everything, you know?
Yeah.
And it was actually rather painful, believe it or not. It wasn't as hard. Yeah, I was really like, whoa. I was almost kind of like reliving it as I was typing it. And then afterwards, you know, it was probably 3.5 months. I didn't tell anybody that I was writing a book because I didn't even know I was writing a book.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know, a couple of weeks after I thought I was finished, I looked down at the word count and I was like, oh, I typed 80,000 words. So I was like, I think I wrote a book. And I told my husband.
Somebody's doing the math right now, trying to figure out what 80,000 words are on pages.
Seriously. And I just told my husband that night, we were having wine. I was like, you know, so, hey, I have this crazy thing I'm going to tell you. He's like, yeah, what's up? I was like, I think I wrote. He was like, you what? And I said, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't even know how it happened. I've just been writing every day for like 3.5 months. And he was like, what? So I showed it to him, and he was like, just thumbing through, you know, like, yeah, he printed all the pages. It was like this huge stack. He was like, dude, you wrote a book. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with it now? So that's kind of how it happened. Yeah.
So you're basically telling me that I need to do the same thing, because I've been thinking about it more than actually doing it. But I think that I always say to myself that you have to write it when you feel called and when you feel ready. And it sounds like you were called in that moment to really share your story. So let's dive a little bit into that. You know, you mentioned, you know, you're an empath and healer. And I know for some who are listening, they may not even know what that is, you know, or what inner child healing is and all that good stuff. You know, I talk to her every day too. Sometimes she's cranky, you know, so gotta talk to that girl all day long. You know, but being an empath and healer, you know, when did you discover this about yourself? When did you have this moment where you were like, I have gifts. I can feel things. I'm here to help others. When did you discover this about yourself?
I was really young. So I actually write a lot about this in the book too, but so my grandfather died when I was 10. And I have many chapters about that time in my life, because that was really when I could tell that I was sensitive. So I could feel the energy of everybody, all the adults around me. It was actually very overwhelming for me. So death was like how I understood that. Then, so I just remember, like, I now know I was in empath shutdown mode during all these funerals and whatnot, because I was like, I would feel very, very ill. I would cry. I was so overwhelmed. Like my parents would have to like put me to bed like at 6 o'clock, like while everybody was downstairs for like the, you know, Italian luncheons or whatever. And, but it was probably like a year or so, maybe 2 years after my grandfather died, I started seeing my grandfather.
Okay.
So I started seeing him in my grandmother's house, like the house. So, and I didn't tell anybody. So it started then. And then it died down for many years, like high school, college, died down. And then it really came back with a vengeance after my first Reiki attunement. So I decided I was going to get a Reiki. I wanted to become certified in Reiki, and really just for my own self. It wasn't really to become a practitioner at that point. And so it opened me wide up. And I didn't expect that, because nobody told me about that. And
who does, right?
Right. Yeah. So, so really it was that moment. I describe it in my book. I'm at the supermarket, and like, I keep thinking I'm hearing people talking to me. So I keep looking around like, I'm sorry, what'd you say? oh, I didn't say anything to you. I was like, oh, okay. And then finally I realized like nobody's talking to me, but I can hear spirits.
Oh.
So I left my shopping cart full of food and I went home and I called my teacher and I was like, you need to come to my house right now and shut this off. I do not want this. So that's how I knew.
Wow. So knowing that, you know, I can understand as also somebody who's an empath and a sensitive and, you know, hears things that it can be so overwhelming when that happens. And, you know, you often may even want to hide. Like you said, you called your teacher and was like, get rid of this. I don't like it, you know, and I know even for myself, I've been times, I don't like this. I don't want it, you know, go away. Right. Sometimes even feeling possessed, you know? So how did you you know, really shift this into, this is a gift and I'm here to help others? At what point did you start to notice that shift for you?
Actually, I work with my clients a lot. So for me, my perception of empaths, there's kind of like two versions of empaths. You're either like, we're all born to be empaths. Having said that, some people just show up in this world as like sensitives, right? They love the earth, the trees, the butterflies, they talk to animals, like, but they're blissfully happy. And they're just an empath, right? And that's amazing and wonderful. And then you have a whole other host of people who come to this earth as empaths, and we learn our sensitivities through pain and suffering and trauma. And those people need to be very careful with their gifts, and they need to make sure that they are healing themselves before they start to play with their gifts. And I didn't do that. So I started to play with my gifts before I started to heal.
I see.
And I, again, for probably the second time, I had empath shut down because I was healing all of these people, because I'm very powerful and I can do that. I was healing all of these people, but I wasn't taking care of myself, and my body crashed and burned. Because essentially, as you know, from a healer perspective, the universe sends you clients to also heal you.
Absolutely.
So for me, I was getting all of my clients, every single one of my clients for 3 years they were all trauma victims.
Yeah.
On so many different levels. I mean, and I describe this in my book too, like the trauma that I have witnessed through my clients was like stuff you see on the TV. And I was re-traumatizing my nervous system the whole time I was healing all these people and not really healing myself. I wasn't really totally tuned into my own trauma. I'm not even sure that I would have described to you that I had a traumatic childhood at that point.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really until maybe 2 or 3 years ago that I realized, like, okay, I need to put my gifts in a box for right now, and I need to focus on myself. And that's what I did.
You know, I think that's such an important message really to share, because I was reading something yesterday, I think on the good old Instagram, and somebody was talking about the fact that, you know, there are a lot of people out there who consider themselves healers, but have not done the work themselves.
Yeah.
And so are they doing more harm with who they're working with rather than actually taking that energy and working on themselves, you know, and healing, like you said, you know, and sharing, healing from a place of the healed, rather than the trying to heal from a wound. Yeah. And, you know, I had never heard, I love what you said there about the empath shutdown. I've never heard that before, but that makes a lot of sense. So, you know, how does one, if I'm coming to see you, right? How does one know, you know, that let's say the healer, right, or the empath has done their work? You know, what are some ways that I would know that you would be, let's say, the right person for me?
Yeah, that's a great question. And by the way, I see it slightly differently. So if you're a gifted healer, you don't always have to do your own healing to be a great healer, because essentially you're not doing the work. You're just the channel for the universe to come through you. But if you haven't done your own healing as a healer, you tend to be sick, overweight, tired, exhausted, can't show up for your friends and family, but you're constantly helping your clients. So for me, that the self-healing is important for the healer,
Sure.
not necessarily for the client. And then the caveat to that is, whether your client knows their shit or not. Sorry. Like
Okay,
they either walk the walk.
First show tries, right? I'm just
Yeah. They either know what they're talking about because they can describe it to you. They don't have to look at notes. They can walk you through it in multiple different ways. If somebody's just like has read a book and they're going to try to teach it to you, but they don't actually do the work, you can feel that. 100% you can feel that. So for the client, it's important that you feel seen and heard, but that you also are paying attention to your energy. How does your body feel when you're in the presence of this healer? Do you feel relaxed? Are you like this? Are you second guessing them? And are you feeling comfortable and safe? If you don't feel comfortable and safe, like there's no healing work happening. You can pretend it's going to happen all day long, but if you're constricted and not allowing things to happen, then you're wasting your money.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really important thing to share. And thank you for bringing that up and really clarifying that, because I think that's really important for all of us. I often get questions as a coach myself, well, how are you different than a therapist? Or, well, you're not certified in XYZ, or trauma, even trauma. Yeah. So, I'd be curious to get your perspective on that too. When we're looking at that in terms of, let's say, traditional therapy, I have both, in my life, but why would someone choose, let's say, to go to a therapist to support their chronic pain, their migraines, the trauma perhaps that is there, versus energy work and, meditation, let's say, and those other things that are valuable?
I think honestly, it is a combination of all of those. There is never going to be one thing, in my opinion. There's not going to be one thing that's your cure, because we're not one dimensional. We have multi different layers to our lives and layers to our trauma. And we heal in like beautiful kind of steps, right? Like the flower opens up petal by petal. So we're supposed to try a bunch of different things. And therapy, traditional therapy, may work and may do amazing things to help you train your brain to think, in the present moment versus in the past, or trying to predict the future. That may be awesome. And say that's 6 months, but you still feel like there's more work to do. Well, then you can try a coach. You can try a healer. You can try journaling. You can try meditation. There's a lot of different ways to heal. And I think it's really our job of any practitioner, whether that's a therapist or whatever, to encourage people to listen to themselves. What do you feel like you need next? What do you feel like you need more of? Because truly, we have the answers. We, as the clients, we have the answers. We know. We don't need to ask 10 different people what dress we should wear. We know what dress we should wear. We don't need to ask 10 different people whether we should, leave our job or whatever. Like, we know. So I encourage I ask my clients, well, what do you think? What's your body telling you right now about everything? Yeah. So that really needs to be like, and I think I did an Instagram post on this the other day, or maybe it's coming up, but a lot of, especially women, we give our power away to the healers, to the psychics, to the doctors, to the therapists. Like, we forget, right? Like, we have the power to heal ourselves. We're supposed to go out there and seek and take little nuggets from people and make it our own.
Yeah. And it's funny you said that. I was actually talking to somebody about that the other day, and I said, the first time I went to a psychic, I was 16 years old. And every decision that I made after 16 was based on what that psychic said. And I didn't realize at the time that I was giving my power away. Yes. And I was like, that's really so sad, that I did. Yes, I did that. But, it took me, I don't know, 20 some years later to wake up and realize that, I have my own power and I
Right.
can make my own choices and decisions. And, I love what you said in terms of the fact that we all have the answers within us. And I
Mhm.
do believe that that's such a valuable piece. Yet as women, as you said, it is one of our biggest challenges as well.
Mhm.
So reminding us of that, I think, is great. So let's shift gears a little bit,
Okay.
because I want to talk a little bit about this meditation and the work that you're doing
Yeah.
connected to primordial sound. So I
Mhm.
want you to talk to us a little bit about how meditation has changed. I know this is going to be a mouthful here, but how has meditation really helped you and supported you in your healing? And how has specifically this meditation, primordial sound meditation, tell us
Mhm.
about that? I've never heard about it. You shared it with me as we again ran into each other outside,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Tell me more."
Primordial sound meditation is based off ancient Vedic astrology. So those ancient sages, like the old wisdom people, they kept record of the fact that the universe had different sounds at different times of the year and in different locations. So essentially, what this primordial sound is based on is the universe was making a very unique sound the day that you took your first breath. So what primordial sound does is it takes you from the local, like local, to the non-local of the universe. And it's the day you were of the sound, the day you were born. So when you're chanting this, which you chant silently, when you chant this every day, you're getting as close to your soul as
Mm.
possible. It's very deep. And it's made I mean, I was meditating for 10 years before I started primordial sound. And it was like almost night and day.
And
I used to say like, yeah, I meditate, but like now that I look back on that practice, I'm like, yeah, it's a joke.
like forget it, right?
Yeah,
And I know you also use sound healing and bowls
I
and
do.
things like that. So how does one figure out what their
I
actual
have to go to
sound
a
is?
certified teacher.
So
You
is
have to go
that
to a certified teacher, and I calculate your sound based on the day you were born, so your birthday, time, and location.
okay? I need to do this. So I'm sitting here like I
I'm,
need to
by the
know that.
way, I'm launching. My classes are going to be online soon, so people can take the course online.
Awesome. And we're
Yeah,
going to get to that in a minute as far as what's next for you and
cool.
where we can find all the good stuff that you've got coming up. So closing up a little bit with regards to the book,
Yeah.
and as you said, it's going to be released in January of 2022,
Yep.
and it's called The Unspoken.
Mhm.
And what do you hope that your readers will receive at the end of reading this book? What is your desire?
Oh, that's so funny. I literally just had a call about this today at 2 o'clock.
I was channeling it probably.
Yeah, you were, right? So for me in particular, I was always a memoir lover. Like I wanted stories about real people who had real struggles, who persevered and came out the end like better than they started. That's the book. I mean, I would read 6 or 7 of them every summer from the time I was young, like in high school. I just loved real stories. So for me, when people read my book, I want them to feel like connected to their story.
Mm.
I want them to have permission to feel their feelings, that they're real, and to tell their story because it needs to be told. When you and I give each other permission to heal by telling our stories, that's like a ripple effect. It helps. It's going to go to our children. It's certainly going to our husbands. And then they pass it along just by not even knowing about it. You know, when you say
Yeah.
like, tell me about what happened to you, then it's like they get empowered. And it's not a how-to book for sure. I do share a lot of what I did to get myself to where I am today, but it's not like you got to do this method and this is how you're going to feel better.
Right.
It's my story. I share a lot of really vulnerable, honest things about my life, including my marriage, my kids, all of my childhood trauma. And I talk about how I totally collapsed in migraines in chronic pain and then learned to put my puzzle pieces together. And everybody, I feel like, can identify with that on some level. They don't necessarily have to have a big crash and burn, but they're going to identify with, you know, being raised by an alcoholic mother, struggling being a working mother, myself, and a bunch of other things. And so I want them to close the book and then just say, all right, if she can do it, I can do it. I'm gonna take my life seriously and my health and my happiness and my well-being seriously. And I'm empowered now to start my healing journey.
That's so powerful. And I don't want to not mention this because we didn't get a chance to really dive into it. And I'm hoping that we'll get you on again to talk more, because I feel like we have so much to talk about, but we didn't get a chance to talk about One Mission. And so really what I would love to briefly hear a little bit about is, how has your work been informed, you know, by the work that you've been doing with One Mission and working with hopefully one day curing pediatric cancer?
Yeah. So my firstborn had cancer when he was a baby, which was what started. He's fine now. Thriving 15-year-old. He was 7 months old when he was diagnosed. And that was what inspired me to start One Mission, because I didn't want to leave the families who I knew were there behind. And again, I talk about this in the book too, like all of those families over the course of the last 13 years, I've been running One Mission, showing up for these families, going to the same hospital room that we were in, right? It's hospital and hospital room. Very re-traumatizing to my nervous system.
Yeah.
I didn't know it. And even if you had told me, I wouldn't have cared. I would have gone anyway. But my whole story is their story. It's the story of the families that we help. So this book is as much for them as it is for everybody else out in the world. You know, having a critically ill child is one of the hardest traumas a mother, a couple, a family can endure. So
powerful. It really is so powerful. And the strength that you have, I mean, I love your energy. I love your strength. And I'm always watching. I've been watching, you know, for however many years it's been. And I love running into you every time. I really, really do. And that we also share the Greek aspect too, you know, which is a cool part that we have. So some fun stuff to kind of close off, and then we'll share basically where everybody can get in touch with you and how that they can get to work with you or learn more about your book that will be released. So tell us real quick, favorite food?
Favorite food, anything chocolate.
Favorite vacation?
Florida.
Ooh. Yeah. Favorite accessory?
Oof, I'm not a big accessory person. Oh, old soul vintage jewelry. Okay. She takes zippers. This is a YSL zipper. Oh, she takes zippers and old charms from like Chanel, Gucci, all that stuff, and she makes jewelry out of them. I love that stuff.
That is so cool.
I love it. Awesome. All of her necklaces, I love them.
So cool. Yeah. And what is your favorite word to say?
Oh,
there's many, right?
I think it might be a swear word. My favorite word to say is, I don't think I have a favorite word.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So where can we connect with you? Where can everyone find Ashley Haseotes and all the wonderful work that you're doing and how you're really impacting the world in a positive way?
Thank you. So they on Instagram, I'm Ashley Has Love, because Ashley Haseotes was taken. On Facebook.
Really?
Yes, but she doesn't exist.
That's crazy.
It's so annoying. Yeah, it's so annoying. So anyway, so I'm Ashley Has Love on Instagram, Facebook, Ashley Haseotes. My website, ashleyhaseotes.com. That's pretty much it. And my email address is ashley@vedahealing.com. So _Ashley@veda-healing.com. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and being the first.
Yeah.
Here. It's awesome because you are a human on a mission, making a big impact. And you certainly have done a lot of work and transformed, and you're continuing transforming and really helping so many. And I really love that about you. the love, just you have so much love and the power of family and community. I really just want to share that with you because I think you're so amazing. Thank you to all the listeners today. And I can't wait for our next guest for Humans on a Mission next week. And always remember to see, believe, and walk your path. See you soon.